Have you ever looked back on a relationship and think, how did I let that happen for so long? Like, how did I, a reasonably intelligent, emotionally self-aware, chronically overthinking human being, end up trapped in something that felt like a slow psychological death? Here's the thing, you didn't let it happen. You were trained for it. Hey there, Neurospicy fam. Welcome back to the Neurospicy Mom Pod, the safe, sparkly corner of the internet where science meets self-compassion. I'm your host, Austen Marie, Scorpio stellium, Aquarius rising, recovering people pleaser, and your mystical mom friend who is just as fascinated by trauma psychology as she is by astrology memes. Today, we are unpacking something diabolical. How childhood abuse and undiagnosed neurodivergence can literally rewire your brain to normalize narcissists. We're going to talk about how this conditioning starts in childhood, how it shapes your nervous system, and how it creates the perfect storm for learned helplessness, the psychology of why you stayed. Grab your emotional support beverage, your journal, or maybe your weighted blanket because today's episode goes deep. If you grew up in a home where love was conditional, where safety depended on keeping the peace, staying small, or earning affection, you didn't just grow up with trauma. You developed a nervous system built for survival. Here's the neuroscience. When a child is exposed to unpredictable or inconsistent caregiving, the amygdala, which detects danger, becomes hyperactive. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and self-control, gets underdeveloped. That means as adults, your brain still defaults to appease or freeze whenever conflict arises. And if you're neurodivergent, that system was already sensitive. ADHD brains experience emotional intensity like a thunderstorm, and autistic brains are wired for pattern detection and fairness, which means we notice every inconsistency, every tiny shift in tone. Combine that with rejection sensitivity and chronic invalidation, you learn early that love equals performance, not presence. So when someone later love bombs you, mirrors you, and makes you feel seen for the first time, your nervous system lights up like, finally, I'm home. Except it's not home. It's the reenactment of one. Okay, let's talk psych history because understanding this study can completely change how you see your past. In the 1960s, psychologist Martin Seligman ran a series of now famous studies on something he called learned helplessness. He put dogs in cages and delivered mild electric shocks through the floor. At first, the dogs tried everything: barking, jumping, scratching, crying. But there was no way out. Every attempt to escape failed. Eventually, they stopped trying. They just lay down, bracing for the pain. Later, Seligman opened the cage door, and freedom was right there. But most of the dogs didn't move. They had learned that no matter what they did, nothing changed. Their brains had accepted powerlessness as the new normal. And that's exactly what happens inside the nervous system of a human being, especially one who grew up or lived under narcissistic control. When you're a child and your literal survival, food, shelter, emotional safety is in the hands of a narcissistic parent, you learn fast that peace depends on compliance. You learn that your tone, your timing, even your body language can trigger love or punishment. Your entire being becomes an instrument for reading danger and avoiding emotional landmines. That's not being sensitive. That's your nervous system doing its job under impossible conditions. Now, fast forward to adulthood. You fall in love with someone who feels magnetic. They're charming, affectionate, and they mirror you so perfectly it feels like fate. But slowly, the same pattern emerges. silent treatments, love bombing, blame, withdrawal, apology, repeat. Emotional shocks in unpredictable waves. At first, you fight back. You reason, you explain, make promises, regulate yourself harder. You go to therapy and Google communication skills at 2 a.m. And when none of it works, that same childhood programming reactivates. Your nervous system whispers, "This is familiar. If I just behave right, they'll calm down. If I stay small, they'll love me again." And just like those dogs in Seligman's study, you could walk out of the cage, but your brain no longer believes freedom equals safety. That's learned helplessness. It's the biology of survival dressed up as loyalty. When you grow up under chronic unpredictability, your body learns that stability is earned through submission. You start to mistake exhaustion for peace. And the cruelest part, narcissists, whether parents or partners, instinctively sense that. So if you've ever wondered why you froze instead of leaving, or why you kept trying to fix what was never yours to fix, this is why. It wasn't weakness, it was wiring. If you've ever said, maybe I'm the crazy one, congratulations, you've experienced gaslighting. Gaslighting isn't just emotional manipulation, it's psychological warfare. It's the systematic dismantling of your ability to trust your own mind. And when that happens in an already dysregulated nervous system, it rewires how your brain processes reality. Let's break this down with some science because this part is wild. Trauma brain isn't a medical diagnosis. It's a nickname for what happens when chronic stress, fear, and emotional abuse changes how your brain functions. When you're in survival mode for too long, your brain literally reprioritizes. The amygdala, your danger detector, becomes overactive. It's like a smoke alarm that goes off even when you're just making toast. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, which handles logic, planning, and decision-making, gets suppressed. That's why when you're triggered, you can't just calm down or think rationally. Your brain has literally redirected blood flow away from rational thought to focus on survival. Then there's the hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for memory and sequencing. Chronic trauma actually shrinks the hippocampus, which is why survivors often have patchy, nonlinear memories. You might remember the color of the walls or the smell in the air, but not exactly what day it was, or the order of events, or even how old you were. That's not forgetfulness. That's your brain filing memories based on emotional intensity instead of time. And finally, the insula, your internal GPS for feelings. It gets confused. You stop trusting your gut because the signals are all scrambled. You might feel anxious but think you're overreacting. You might sense danger but convince yourself you're safe. That's not intuition gone wrong. It's trauma brain trying to protect you by numbing your internal alarm system. So when a narcissist gaslights you, when they say that never happened or you're remembering it wrong, your trauma brain doubles down on that self-doubt because those same areas of the brain that help you regulate, recall, and reason have already been hijacked by chronic fear. You're not imagining it. Your brain's literally been rewired to prioritize harmony over truth. Now layer in cognitive dissonance, that mental tug of war between two beliefs that cannot coexist. This person loves me. This person is hurting me. To reduce the discomfort, your brain will choose whichever belief feels safer. And for someone with trauma brain, safer usually means minimizing the danger. You'll rewrite the story in real time. Maybe they didn't mean it like that. Maybe I did overreact. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. That's not self-blame, it's self-preservation. Because if your brain has learned that love is conditional and conflict is dangerous, you'll sacrifice truth for belonging every time. This is why survivors of narcissistic abuse often sound inconsistent when telling their stories. It's not that they're unreliable, it's that their filing system is chaos coded. Their brain was archiving in emergency mode, not storytelling mode. Now add in neurodivergence, ADHD, autism, sensory processing differences, and the whole system gets even more complicated. Our nervous systems are already running on high input. We feel emotions more intensely, remember sensations more vividly, and analyze patterns obsessively. But under narcissistic abuse, those very traits get turned against us. We start second-guessing our perception because we've been told for years too sensitive, too dramatic, or reading too much into things. So when gaslighting starts, it lands differently. It hits an already existing fault line of self-doubt. That's trauma brain meets neurodivergent wiring. It's not fragility. It's an overdeveloped survival system. And that's what makes healing so complex, because you're not just unlearning someone else's manipulation. You're also reteaching your brain that it's safe to trust itself again. When you've lived under chronic psychological control, your nervous system starts picking survival modes like they're presets on a remote. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. But here's what rarely gets talked about. For many neurodivergent survivors, the fawn response becomes the default. You become a master of reading the room, anticipating needs, softening yourself so others feel safe. Because once upon a time, that's what kept you alive. Eventually, though, the system burns out. You stop fighting. You stop trying to fix. You freeze. And from the outside, people call that weakness. But from the inside, it's physics. Your body literally cannot mobilize under chronic stress. This is why survivors struggle to leave even when they know better. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making, goes offline under constant threat. That's neurological survival mode. So no, you weren't choosing abuse. Your body was protecting you in the only way it knew how. The antidote to learned helplessness isn't empowerment slogans. It's choice restoration. Tiny, consistent acts of proving to your nervous system that your actions do matter. Start small. It doesn't have to be some grand reinvention. It can look like choosing what you actually want for breakfast and not second-guessing yourself, or saying no to a small request and letting yourself feel the discomfort without apologizing for it. It might mean writing down what really happened after an argument, capturing your truth in black and white before your brain starts rewriting it to keep the peace. Every one of these tiny acts is a signal to your nervous system that you're safe now, that your choices matter, your voice matters, and that you can trust yourself again. Somatic regulation helps too. Grounding, humming, cold water, slow exhales. Every sensory cue that says, "We're safe now," retrains the vagus nerve to believe it. And if you catch yourself slipping back into self-blame, remember this. You weren't chosen because you were weak. You were chosen because you were strong enough to carry both of you. You weren't fooled because you were stupid. You were fooled because you were hopeful. And that hope, that was never your flaw. It was your power. I know this one hits deep because it hit me too. Healing from narcissistic abuse when you're neurodivergent isn't just about leaving a person. It's about unlearning the belief that chaos is love and that silence is safety. You are not broken. You were conditioned. And now you're reconditioning yourself to peace. You are allowed to want consistency. You are allowed to rest. And you are allowed to build a life where love doesn't feel like panic. Today's small business shout out goes to Feeling Farm Books from the amazing Robin Williams. We're spotlighting Feeling Farm Books by Robin Williams, a Chico-based children's author and someone I had the privilege of teaching TK alongside. Robin has always been an incredibly kind and supportive educator, and I admire her deeply as a teacher. Her books now bring that same compassion to children everywhere, helping them understand and express emotions. Personally, my youngest was profoundly impacted by her first day of school book, The Multiple Perspectives, and that story really expanded his way of thinking. Feeling Farm is a powerful resource for parents and educators alike. You can learn more at feelingfarm.com or connect with Robin on Instagram at robind_Williams. If this episode resonated, please take a moment to share it, leave a review, or send it to someone who needs to hear that it wasn't their fault. And if you want to support this Healing Mama's dream of building Healing Hearts Homestead, a sanctuary for women and kids recovering from abuse and burnout, you can join my Patreon for just $5 a month. Your support helps me create more episodes like this, rooted in neuroscience, compassion, and real-world healing. Until next time, stay safe, stay soft, and stay spicy. Ta-ta!